Hello, and welcome to Two Cells, One Pack. Today, Christine's not here because she's not feeling well, but today what we're going to do is to rebuild the Fast Day suspension that can be found on the Leaperkim patent, the Leaperkim Sherman S, as well as the up-and-coming Leaperkim Lynx. So if you have a shock that is leaking oil, now that it's the winter time, it's a perfect time to do this type of work. But we can go and buy the seals, rebuild it so that when it comes to the spring, you're good to go and enjoy riding. So follow along and let's go. These are the tools you'll need to do the suspension rebuild on a Leaperkim Sherman S, Patent, or Lynx. You'll need 5-weight fork oil, some grease that does not deteriorate rubber seals, a measuring cup that can measure accurately for 130 mils and 150 mils. You'll need brake cleaner or some sort of cleaning detergent, a heat gun, a pick tool, an adjustable wrench, as well as a flathead screwdriver. So the first thing that we're going to do is to remove the red collar and unscrew it. Now this is a 32 millimeter wrench, but if you don't have that exact size, you can also use an adjustable wrench. Once you have it loosened, you can unscrew it all the way. And once you screw it all the way, you'll see it pop out. Then you can slide this collar all the way down to the bottom and pull your shock out. Now the shock will drip a little bit of oil, so just make sure you have a little basin so you can catch that oil, but also because we'll use the basin to clean the housing as well. Now at this point you may want to wear gloves because it can get a little bit messy. But what we're going to do is you can see here that there's a hole in the side of the shaft. We're going to take this and pour the oil out. Now before I put this aside, as we work on the seals, what I will want to do is I'll want to just clean the shaft with my paper towel as well as some brake cleaner, just to make sure that any dirt, debris, or impurities are removed. Once you can see that it's fairly clean, we'll put this aside and work on the other side. So now that we have this main shaft here that screws onto your wheel, what we're going to do is to replace both the dustproof rim as well as the inner seal. So in order to do that, we're going to remove this seal first. You can put that aside. And then if you want, we can clean this. It looks like someone had added some silicone prior, which is not advisable. Once you take off that ring, you will see that there is this silver ring that's a retaining clip. So we're going to take that out, and then we're going to heat up to remove the inner seal. So in order to remove that silver seal, you'll see that there is a break here in the ring. So the closest gap to that break, what you can do is you can put a flathead screwdriver and just pry it out simply like that. Doesn't take much force. There you go. And it's out. Now the next step is to replace that inner seal. So in order to do that, we're going to heat up this outer red ring to around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And that will allow it to expand, which allows us to remove that O-ring easily. So now that we have our heat gun, we're going to heat up this red color in order to expand it so that we can remove the rubber O-ring inside. So let's go ahead and do that right now. As you heat up, you can use a pry tool to pull it out. And once it pops out easily, you can continue your next step. Before we put everything back together, we want to make sure that there's no debris. If you look carefully, I can see some debris in the oil. So we'll want to clean out that whole shaft as well as the inner shaft just to make sure that there's nothing that will create a gap for oil to leak. Now, again, the previous owner of this shock did put some silicone, so I'm going to try to remove as much as I can, and then we'll continue. We're going to reassemble this top pipe with the seals, and then we're going to slot it on there and then pour some oil in. So the first step is, if you have already got new seals, if you're going to do this work, I would suggest getting new seals. Um, you can purchase these online, and you can see that there's a little bit of white grease here, but not very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert this into the sleeve so it sits on this channel. Make sure that the words are facing outwards, facing you, and that this spring is facing the inside of the shock. So we're going to place this in here. If it doesn't slide in easily, what we're going to do is we're going to heat up the outer ring again with the heat gun and slowly insert it. As you kind of heat it up, you can use a flathead screwdriver. Just make sure that when you're using the flathead, you place it in a way where it's on the whole seal, not this way so it can poke through the seal. So as you rotate it, just slowly push in the sides until you have it seated on that very inner red surface. Don't use too much force because you don't want to break that seal. So what we're going to do now is you just want to make sure that the rubber is underneath that channel where the retaining clip sits, and that the rubber seal is sitting on the bottom orange surface. Once you got it to that point, we're going to reinsert this retaining clip. Now the retaining clip doesn't have much force, so you can do it by hand. You'll hear it clip into place, and then when you look at it, you'll see that it's into that little channel that was inset there. So at this point, we're going to add some more grease because you can see there isn't that much grease from the factory. And then we'll put the dustproof seal back on. Now, in order to add some grease to the seal, you just want to make sure that the grease that you add does not deteriorate the rubber O-ring. So what I've purchased is this SRAM butter, which is used for shock seals and more, and you can purchase this on Amazon, and I'll put the link below. Now, once I'm happy with the grease that's on that ring, I'm going to put back the dustproof O-ring. It'll just sit right in place. Once this is done, now this shaft is ready to be assembled back onto the main shaft. So now that everything is cleaned, greased, and ready to go, we're going to now push this shaft back on and then pull up. Now before you slide this up, we need to insert more shock oil back into it because we drained all the oil. Now for the shock oil, you'll want to get a measuring cup as well as a 5-weight shock oil. It doesn't matter too much the brand that you get, but what you're going to do is you're going to pour 130 mils if this is a Patton suspension and 150 mils if this is a Sherman S. Now this fastest one is a Sherman S one, so we're going to do 150 mils. So as you can see, I got it roughly around to 150 mils. Now we're going to pour this in. So slide down the shaft a little bit. And we're going to pour this in. Now once you pour that in, you can bring the main shaft all the way up. And then you can take your open wrench or adjustable wrench, 32 mil, and start to tighten it back on again. Now in order to tighten it, you can put it down on the bench with some downward force and just do it a little bit just to make sure it's tight. Now that you've fully assembled this, again, I would take a paper towel, wipe it down, make sure there's no residue. And then you can go ahead and install this back into your wheel. And that brings us to the end of the tutorial on how to fix the seals or replace the seals on your Sherman S, Patton, or the upcoming Lynx wheel.